Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the visiting South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. They hold wide-ranging talks from shipbuilding to semiconductors, trade to AI and more. Iran rules out new round of negotiations with the United States, says Washington has violated the ceasefire and isn't serious about diplomacy. Ukrainian drone hits Tuapse oil loading port of Rosneft. Kiev separately claims strike on Russian landing ships in Sevastopol. UK's Prime Minister Starmer to address the UK Parliament amid calls for him to step down. He's under pressure after admitting to lapses in a background check on the former ambassador to the United States, Mandelson. The South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, accompanied by the First Lady Kim Hye-kyung, they paid a heartfelt tribute to Mahatma Gandhi by laying a floral wreath at Rajghat in New Delhi on Monday. Their visit began with a ceremonial welcome, a grand welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, graced by the presence of the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, reflecting the warmth of the India-South Korea bilateral relationship. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held comprehensive bilateral discussions with the South Korean President Lee at Hyderabad House, focusing on strengthening the special strategic partnership. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the South Korean President Lee Jae-myung held extensive delegation-level talks in New Delhi. Both sides focused on strengthening bilateral ties and increasing cooperation in several sectors. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the South Korean President Lee Jae-myung also took part in a business leaders' dialogue in New Delhi. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi and President Lee jointly planted a sapling as well at the Hyderabad House, symbolizing their shared commitment to environmental sustainability and deepening a democratic relationship and friendship. This highlights the first South Korean presidential visit to India in over 8 years. The partnership between India and South Korea has evolved into a comprehensive special strategic partnership, currently at a historic high with the state visit of the South Korean president to India. Let's look at this report on the current state of India-South Korea relations.
India and the South Korea established consular relations in 1962 and the diplomatic ties were established on 10 December 1973. Bilateral ties were elevated to a strategic partnership in 2010. India and Republic of Korea share deep-rooted cultural and civilizational linkages as well. High-level exchanges have provided sustained momentum to bilateral ties. According to an ancient Korean text, Princess Suriratna from Ayodhya married King Kim Suro in 48 AD and became Queen Hyeowongoke. Many Koreans trace their ancestry to this lineage. Buddhism reached Korea through maritime routes associated with Princess Suriratna. Rabindranath Tagore composed in Lamp of the East a poem reflecting Korea's cultural legacy. It continues to enjoy enduring popularity and is included in school curricula. India played a pivotal role in the 1953 ceasefire and deployed the 60th Parachute Field Ambulance, which treated over 220,000 patients. India led the Neutral Nations Repatriation Commission to resolve prisoner repatriation and humanitarian issues after the armistice. Bilateral trade between India and South Korea reached $26.89 billion in financial year 2024-25, marking a 90% growth since the 2010 CEPA. India's imports from Korea stood at $21 billion, while exports were approximately $5.8 billion. Korea is India's 13th largest investor, with $6.69 billion in cumulative FDI from 2000 to 2025. Over 650 Korean companies, including giants like Samsung, Hyundai and LG, operate in India. The first bilateral naval exercise was held in October 2023 at Busan, featuring the indigenously built stealth frigate INS Sahyadri. India-South Korea partnerships now extend into shipbuilding, semiconductors, artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. High-level engagements remain frequent, including multiple meetings between PM Modi and Korean leadership from 2023 to 2025. Prime Minister Modi was awarded the 2018 Seoul Peace Prize for his contributions to international cooperation and economic growth. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met President Yoon Suk Yeol twice in 2023. Cultural engagement between both the countries continue through festivals, films and academic exchanges. Buddhist circuit tourism remains a key attraction. Indian visitors to South Korea reached 200,000 in 2025, with a target of 270,000 set for 2026. Approximately 110,000 Korean tourists visit India annually, often following the Buddhist circuit. The Indian community in Korea is estimated at around 18,000, with a notable increase in tourism as well. Anamika Pandey's report for DD India.
Well, let's now take a look at the multifaceted special strategic partnership between India and South Korea. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the South Korean President Lee Jae-myung delivered joint statements as well in Delhi on Monday after witnessing the exchange of several memoranda of understanding between the two countries. Now, in his statement, Prime Minister Modi described the visit as extremely important, highlighting shared democratic values and a common Indo-Pacific outlook. He announced plans to transform the trusted partnership into a futuristic one, targeting bilateral trade growth from $27 billion to $50 billion by 2030. Key initiatives include launching the India-Korea Financial Forum, forming an industrial cooperation committee, starting an economic security dialogue, and establishing Korean industrial townships.
हम चिप से लेकर शिप्स, टैलेंट से लेकर टेक्नोलॉजी, एनवायरनमेंट से लेकर एनर्जी, हर क्षेत्र में सहयोग के नए अवसरों को साकार करेंगे और साथ मिलकर दोनों देशों की प्रोग्रेस और प्रॉस्पेरिटी सुनिश्चित करेंगे। दोनों देशों के बीच फाइनेंशियल फ्लोज को सुगम बनाने के लिए हमने भारत कोरिया फाइनेंशियल फोरम की शुरुआत की है। बिजनेस सहयोग को बल देने के लिए हमने एक इंडस्ट्रियल कोऑपरेशन कमेटी का गठन किया है। क्रिटिकल टेक्नोलॉजी और सप्लाई चेन में सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए हम इकोनॉमिक सिक्योरिटी डायलॉग शुरू कर रहे हैं। कोरिया की कंपनीज, खासकर एसएमईज की भारत में एंट्री सहज करने के लिए हम कोरियन इंडस्ट्रियल टाउनशिप भी स्थापित करेंगे और अगले 1 वर्ष के अंदर हम भारत कोरिया ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट को अपग्रेड भी करेंगे।
With the world's largest population and the 4th largest economy, India has emerged as a leader in the global south. And under your Viksit Bharat 2047 vision, this country is achieving remarkable development.
And our correspondent Jessica Taneja has been following that story closely. She joins us now from the Hyderabad house. What our Prime Minister Modi and President Lee seeing as the top priorities for expanding cooperation, shipbuilding, semiconductors, emerging technologies is what our stories were talking about. Jessica.
That's correct, Mark. Shipbuilding, artificial intelligence, and also looking at various supply chain disruptions that are taking place because of the conflict in West Asia. Something that came up in the discussions between the two leaders they just had here at Hyderabad House in New Delhi. Now, this is an important visit by the South Korean president. As it comes, this particular bilateral meeting comes nearly after 7 years. The last time Prime Minister Modi went to South Korea was in 2019. And the strategic interests now converge on many fronts, especially from technology point of view and also the kind of heft that the industries in South Korea currently looking at shipbuilding and manufacturing, helping with a lot of infrastructure and manufacturing of shipbuilding equipment when it comes to ports and also cranes and smart infrastructure, something which is tech driven, open to navigation, especially these huge vessels that carry goods. That is something also that South Korea builds. So huge technological and infrastructure advantage when it comes to this partnership with South Korea, and it's finally sort of come to light that this is something that could bear fruition, not only highlight India and South Korea relationship, but also finding new ways to sort of take that relationship forward. Now, even the bilateral trade between the two has roughly stood around $27 billion, where they want to now aim it to be, roughly around $50 billion by 2030. And that is one target they've had in the past as well. But after the upgrade from the Comprehensive Economic Partnership to Special Strategic Partnership in 2015, this is the time they also discussed that there is a momentum to take those relationships forward, especially in the sectors of finance and also fintech, as was discussed in the meetings that took place between the two.
Yes, Jessica. So, are there any indications of timelines? You mentioned 2030. For what are the next steps, one would say, in advancing the Comprehensive Economic Partnership 2.0? Because we're talking about boosting trade now from about $27 billion to $50 billion target.
That's correct, and a lot of sectors would be part of that. Let's not also forget that South Korean technology has also worked over the years to put itself out there when it comes to nuclear energy as well. So when you talk about small, reactors and modulars, they're also something that South Korea can help us with. So in that sense, South Korea would be important in that partnership, going beyond just what we know as India to be the market for automobiles as well as electronic goods that South Korea has been selling in India when it comes to electronics with Samsung, LG, Hyundai. But it's interesting also to see that now, the Hyundai heavy industries and the Samsung heavy industries also investing heavily into sort of building that, infrastructure for ports and for cranes and to create that particular pathway in a sense to avoid further disruptions that we witness right now on various sea routes. Mark.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Jessica Taneja, for those updates from the Hyderabad House. And we are also privileged to have with us Ambassador S.R. Tayal, former Indian ambassador to South Korea. He is joining us as well, and we saw him in the visual already a little earlier. Ambassador Tayal, thank you for being with us. Now, how significant is already the growth that we are seeing in India-South Korean trade since that CEPA was signed? And what are the main barriers? I was asking Jessica that, and you're trying to address this, raising it to $50 billion.
This bilateral visit, high-level visit, is a very good opportunity for the two leaders, two delegations, officials, industry, to review what has been achieved, assess what have been the bottlenecks, as you have alluded to, and to have a roadmap for the future. And as the Honorable Prime Minister very clearly said, from a trusted partnership, we are moving towards a futuristic partnership. Because the road is clear, we have a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, there is a multitude of other agreements, etc. But the Korean investment into India has been below expected. They are following a China +1 policy, but not much investment has come to India. So now the India's goal, objective, Prime Minister's vision is Viksit Bharat. In that Viksit Bharat, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India is a very major component.
Yes.
And this is where Korean companies have a role and the Korean government has a role. And that is why we see so many new platforms for dialogue at the highest level have been established, from financial to economic to digital, well, to culture. Let us keep it aside.
True. Ambassador Tayal, if I can come in here, you were saying that investment is not up to potential, but there are about 650 plus Korean companies operating in India. And, they're very popular brands. Surely the investment patterns in electronics, in mobility, cars, automobiles, all these have reached some sort of level. And would you see that, now we are moving into the AI age and all these other patterns where we can see probably a shift in focus?
Certainly, the Korean companies are already, I think, the 13th largest investor in India, and the biggest credit for Korean companies like Hyundai Motors or Samsung and LG is that almost 70–80% of their value addition is in India. Now, Samsung has the largest company, largest unit to have mobile sets in here in NCR. So that all has been achieved. And so when looking at the future, as you mentioned, it is a digital age where semiconductors, critical minerals are important, and the way to move forward is for very rapid decisions. And that is why this digital dialogue, economic security dialogue, and the digital dialogue will be very, very important for the two sides to immediately address any issue which might be faced by the IT companies of India and Korea. So the policy intervention, policy support will come from the two governments, but the ball is firmly in the court of the private sector of both countries to come forward, cooperate, collaborate, and take the two countries to newer heights of prosperity and growth.
Ambassador Tayal, also, what does the first bilateral naval exercise in 2025 signal about the future of India-South Korea defense and also maritime cooperation?
Maritime cooperation is extremely important. Both India and Republic of Korea are totally wedded to free and open Indo-Pacific. And in West Asia, we are both victims, innocent victims of the barrier to flow of oil and gas from West Asia, from Gulf countries, because both India and Korea, along with so many other Asian countries, are major importers of fuel and oil from West Asia. And in that context, already our coast guards have been cooperating, exercising for a number of years. And we had a naval exercise some time back, the first one. Then defense manufacturing, I think equipment, that would be a very major area, and there is a working group for that also has been established. Already K9, that Vajra, Weitzer is being manufactured in India by L&T with Korean technical collaboration. The focus perhaps by both the countries is on shipping, because Korea has very good technology, very good engineering, very short time schedules from laying of the keel to the launch. And Indian shipyards are also very good in technology, but they can do with some upgradation. So one MOU perhaps has been signed between Cochin shipyard and
Yes.
Korean shipyard. So that is the way to go forward. And there are immense possibilities in, I would say, first of the table should be in the shipping sector.
True. Now, you did mention about the next generation sectors, like semiconductors, AI and all that, and you asked for the private sector to be playing a significant role. Cyber security could be one of the areas. But, what is expected from the private sector? I mean, after all, India has a large startup ecosystem. We are looking at, scaling up in that sense. What you think can we get from South Korea, cutting edge technology? What's the collaboration likely to be?
See, these days, let's say there's a lot of work going on in India also on drones.
Yes.
They require engines, they require some kind of guidance equipment. India is doing very well, but with the Korean startups, Korean SMMEs, there is a SMME group also established by the two leaders. So that will be a very productive area for very immediate collaboration and results. Then in the longer term, the new energy, green energy, green hydrogen, and nuclear modular reactors have been mentioned. In nuclear energy, both India and Republic of Korea have very good experience, very good strengths, and working together, certainly they can come up with the very new modular reactors, which can be economically very competitive and
Sure.
technologically state of the art. And that is a very new area where every country is starting from scratch.
Indeed, indeed.
And
If we go on to the sector that you had, you mentioned it in your first answer about cultural links. We are talking about expanding tourism, also religious tourism. Academic exchanges also are possible that they can grow. How would you say people-to-people linkages and ties actually influence the broader diplomatic and economic ties as countries grow closer and closer to each other?
so I think the how much people of India know about Korea is perhaps more than any other country of Asia because of K-pop and
Right.
TV serials, etc. Similarly, in Korea, because of course, Princess of Ayodhya, Buddhism, and all of that, but Indian cuisine is very, very popular. In Seoul, there are about 50 restaurants which have Indian food. Yoga is very, very popular. So that foundation, that base is there. And on that, to build cultural industries, I think that is the objective of the two leaders, culture and creative industries. And how to, because it's a big industry like K-pop, and they are very big multi-billion dollar industries. And the Korean president in his remarks said that some Korea-India cultural center will be established in Mumbai.
Right.
Have some kind of a synergy between K-pop and Bollywood. So ultimately, the governments have to lead the way, open the doors, but the private sector, the private companies have to really work and bring the results. That is what I feel.
True. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador S.R. Tayal, former ambassador of India to South Korea. Thank you for putting that into perspective for us.
Thanks.
Now, moving on to our next story, India's Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan concluded his two-day official visit to Sri Lanka on Monday, highlighting strengthened bilateral ties as well as continued development cooperation. During his visit, the Vice President visited Nuwara Eliya, where he received a grand traditional welcome from the local community. The Vice President toured houses built under the Indian Housing Project, a flagship initiative aimed at improving living conditions for Indian origin Tamil community in Sri Lanka. He also interacted with members of the community, listening to their experiences and concerns firsthand. The visit highlights India's continued commitment to the welfare of Indian origin Tamils and underscores also the deepening people-to-people ties between India and Sri Lanka. And Vice President Radhakrishnan also offered prayers at Sita Amman Temple in Sita Eliya. It's revered by millions. This sacred site is associated with the holy Ramayana, and it stands as a profound reminder of the deep cultural and civilizational links between India and Sri Lanka. He also paid his respects to the Hanuman Kovil, venerating the sacred footsteps of Lord Hanuman from his meeting with Goddess Sita at Ashok Vatika. The Union Minister Jitendra Singh also on Monday, he spoke with officials in Udhampur following a tragic road accident there involving a public transport bus in Kanote. This is a village on the Ramnagar Udhampur route. The minister said that all possible assistance is being provided, with the injured passengers shifted to the government hospital in Udhampur for treatment. He added that rescue and evacuation operations are currently underway. According to authorities, the bus rolled downhill, resulting in at least 21 fatalities, while 61 were severely injured. Local police confirmed that rescue operations are ongoing and emergency teams were rushed to the site soon after the incident. Officials from the Jammu and Kashmir Police, they continue to oversee relief efforts as the administration works to support affected families and to stabilize those injured. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed his deep grief over the loss of lives due to the bus accident in Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir. The Prime Minister announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees from the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund that would be given to the next of kin of each of those who have lost their lives in this tragic mishap. The injured would be given 50,000 rupees. Now, still to come here on DD India Newshour, pro-Russian former President Rumen Radev is set for a runaway victory in Bulgaria's election. North Korea's latest missile tests assess cluster bomb and mine-carrying warheads.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse. Is the United States China's debt trap strategy? Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
save your country.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. The US President Donald Trump accused Iran of violating the current ceasefire agreement and threatened to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge if Iran does not make a deal with the United States. According to Trump's post on Truth Social, Iran's closing of the Strait of Hormuz will cause it to lose $500 million a day, while the United States will suffer no losses as many ships are heading to various US states to load energy. Now, Trump also said that the United States representatives will travel to Islamabad on Monday for a new round of negotiations. Hours after Trump's announcement, Iran rejected that they are taking part in the second round of peace talks with the United States. In fact, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Ismail Baghai, he has said that there are no plans for a second round of negotiations with the United States for now. He added that the U.S. has said that he said that the U.S. has shown it is not even serious about pursuing the diplomatic process and that it has committed aggressive acts that have violated the ceasefire provisions. The U.S. Navy seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman on Sunday after it allegedly ignored warnings and tried to breach the naval blockade on Iranian ports. Iran condemned the action as piracy and a ceasefire violation. The incident has heightened tensions just days before the two-week U.S.-Iran ceasefire expires on Wednesday. Here's the report.
The U.S. Navy attacked and seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship on Sunday. The U.S. claimed the vessel tried to evade the naval blockade imposed on Iranian ports. It added that the ship crossed the blockade line after ignoring multiple warnings. Iran says the attack and the subsequent boarding of the ship by U.S. forces was a violation of the ceasefire, describing it as piracy. The fresh standoff between Washington and Tehran comes just before the two-week ceasefire is set to expire on Wednesday. It has also raised doubts about a new round of U.S.-Iran talks in Islamabad this week. U.S. President Donald Trump earlier announced that U.S. negotiators would head to Pakistan on Monday for another round of talks with Iran, but Iran has reportedly refused to attend.
Homes on the border exploited by Hezbollah, they would be demolished. And that any structure threatening the forces and any road suspected of containing explosive devices must be destroyed immediately. Katz was speaking at the inauguration ceremony of a Jewish settlement of Sar Nur in West Bank. He said that the main goal of the Israeli campaign in Lebanon was the disarmament of Iran-backed Hezbollah militant group.
The overarching objective of this campaign in Lebanon is the disarmament of Hezbollah and the removal of the threat to the communities of the north through a combination of military and diplomatic measures. We are holding this briefing while the IDF is deployed in the security zone in Lebanon up to the anti-tank line, at a depth of 10 kilometers from the coastline in the west to the approaches of Mount Hermon in the east. From this line, which our heroic soldiers captured, the Israel Defense Force defend Israeli communities from any direct threat.
Well, for the first time since hostilities with Hezbollah escalated last month during the Iran war, Israeli reporters, they were allowed by the Israeli Defense Forces to enter southern Lebanon in an escorted visit to the newly established security zone. Also on Sunday, the Israeli military published for the first time a map of its new deployment line inside Lebanon, bringing dozens of mostly abandoned Lebanese villages under its control. Israel and Lebanon agreed on Thursday to a U.S.-backed ceasefire in fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. The visit took place during a fragile 10-day ceasefire announced by the U.S. President Donald Trump that began at midnight between Thursday and Friday, following more than 40 days of fighting in southern Lebanon. The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is going to face lawmakers in the UK Parliament on Monday as he attempts to contain growing anger over a continuing scandal which involves Peter Mandelson and his links to Jeffrey Epstein. Starmer is scheduled to deliver a statement in the House of Commons at around 14:30 GMT, after which he will be questioned by members of Parliament. Mandelson, 72 years old, was dismissed as the ambassador to the United States in September last year following revelations about the extent of his connections with Jeffrey Epstein. The controversy intensified on Thursday after new details emerged indicating that Mandelson had failed a security vetting process prior to his appointment. In fact, Starmer said that he would set out the relevant facts before the lawmakers, while senior official Ollie Robbins is expected to give evidence to a parliamentary committee on Tuesday. However, the opposition leaders have called for Starmer to step down, with accusations ranging from incompetence to willful misleading of parliamentarians and the public. The Russian officials said on Monday that at least one person was killed in a major Ukrainian drone attack on Russia's Black Sea port of Tuapse, which sparked a fire. The local governor, Kondoratyev, said on Monday that one man had died and another was injured in the massive Ukrainian drone attack on the Russian Black Sea port of Tuapse. One of Russia's major southern ports, Tuapse is also an oil product export hub that also handles dry bulk cargo such as coal and fertilizer. In addition, it in fact is home to one of the major refineries of the state-owned Rosneft. Ukraine said on Monday that its military intelligence has struck two large Russian landing ships in the Russian-occupied Crimea. At the time of the strike, which occurred overnight on Sunday, the ships that are part of the Russian Black Sea port were in Sevastopol Bay. A German citizen has been detained in Russia's Stavropol region for planning a terrorist attack at a law enforcement facility. Reports citing Federal Security Service said that the 57-year-old German woman has been arrested with a bomb in her rucksack in the city of Pyatigorsk. It had, in fact, it said that the bomb she was carrying was to have been detonated by an Islamist from Central Asia. Bulgaria's pro-Russian former President Rumen Radev is leading in Sunday's parliamentary election. He has about 44.59% of the votes after 32% of the votes were counted. Radev, who opposes the military support for Ukraine's war effort against Moscow, stepped down from the presidency in January to run in the parliamentary election, which comes after mass protests forced out the previous government in December. If confirmed, the performance would mark one of the strongest results by a single party in a generation. Radev's Progressive Bulgaria's decisive victory may see an end to the instability that has resulted in 8 elections in 5 years. The final election results are expected later today. The North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw Sunday's ballistic missile test launches as part of efforts to evaluate the performance of warheads carrying cluster bombs and fragmentation mines. The tests represented the 4th ballistic missile launch this month and the 7th this year. The tests involved 5 launches of upgraded short-range Hwasong-11 Ra surface-to-surface tactical ballistic missiles to evaluate the power and performance of the new warheads. South Korea confirmed detecting the launches from the Sinpo area and immediately convened an emergency security meeting. Seoul warned of a firm response to any further provocations and said that it is maintaining a strong defensive posture along with the United States. Still to come here on DD India Newshour, a 7.4 magnitude earthquake jolts northern Japan. The Met Department issues a tsunami warning. In the Indian Premier League, Gujarat Titans are going to be facing Mumbai Indians today. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck northern Japan on Monday. This is what Japan's meteorological agency, the JMA, has said, issuing a tsunami warning as well for waves up to 3 meters high. That's about 10 feet. The quake hit at 7:53 GMT in Pacific waters of northern Iwate Prefecture, and the tremor was strong enough to shake large buildings as far as Tokyo, hundreds of kilometers away. The weather agency said that the earliest tsunami waves could reach the northern shoreline immediately. The weather agency also added that evacuate immediately from coastal regions and riverside areas to a safer place such as high ground or also an evacuation building. Now, besides that, it also warned that damage due to tsunami waves is expected. It added that tsunami waves are expected to hit repeatedly. It says, do not leave safe ground until the warning is lifted. The Prime Minister's office said that it had set up a crisis management team. Germany is hosting the world's largest industrial trade fair, Hannover Messe, with Brazil now being the partner country this time around. The trade fair comes at a time of escalating wars and mounting geopolitical pressure from supply chains to energy security. The stakes are high. And for more, we are joined by DW correspondent Chiponda Chembelu in Berlin. Chiponda, now against this backdrop of global conflict, also geopolitical strain, what's the key focus of Hannover Messe this year?
Well, during the opening ceremony of the Hannover Messe, Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Brazilian President Lula da Silva called for closer relations between the South American country and the European Union. Now, next month, on May 1st, the EU-Mercosur Free Trade Agreement takes effect. The deal, which was only signed earlier this year, after more than 25 years of negotiations, creates a free trade zone between the European Union and 4 South American countries: Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Now, many see the EU-Mercosur FTA as a sign that the old global trading order is gone and the realignment is pushing countries into each other's arms. And Brazil, as Latin America's most populous country, is a big part of that effort for the European Union. And it is the partner country at this year's Hannover Messe. Brazil is an important country, both economically and geopolitically. It is Germany's most important trading partner in Latin America, and Germany is Brazil's most important trading partner here in the European Union.
So what does Brazil bring to the table for Europe?
Brazil has a population of 216 million people, so that is a huge market for European companies, especially given that Brazil has been pursuing a long-term industrial policy focusing on sustainability, decarbonization, and the energy transition. Brazil also holds substantial amounts of
Well, we seem to have a technical problem with our link with Chiponda. Thank you very much, Chiponda Chembelu in Berlin. Moving on to our next story, which is from the sports department. Let's get you the sports news now. The Indian Premier League, Gujarat Titans and Mumbai Indians are going to be battling it out in Ahmedabad today. And this battle between the two of them is going to be one between two highly contrasting bowling attacks, which proves that the presence of superstars does not equate to success. After a stunning win over Kolkata Knight Riders, the 6th place Gujarat Titans will be aiming to get their 4th win of the season, while the bottom placed Mumbai Indians, they are going to be trying to come up with a solution for their slump, which has led to 4 heavy thumping defeats after starting the campaign with a win. Now, Gujarat Titans' pace attack this season has been standout and unchanged. It has the Indian trio of Mohammad Siraj, Prasidh Krishna and Ashok Sharma, besides the South African Kagiso Rabada in action. So their combined pace bowling average, in fact, stands at 24.89. That's the best in the competition so far. The strong cultural ties between India and South Africa, it was on display this weekend through the game of chess, actually. The 3rd edition of the Khelo India Diaspora Chess Tournament was held in Johannesburg. And Nazneen Ismail has more.
Johannesburg played host to the 3rd edition of the Khelo India Diaspora Chess Tournament, bringing together the Indian diaspora in South Africa through the universal language of chess. Organized under India's flagship Khelo India program, the tournament brought together the diaspora while highlighting India's continued commitment to engaging its global community through sport. Hosted by the Consulate General of India in Johannesburg and held in association with the Lone Hill Chess Academy, the event reflects the strong and enduring ties between India and South Africa.
The vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji is to connect strategically with our diaspora across the world, and that's the reason why we have bought Khelo India. We have termed it as a Khelo India Diaspora, so that we can connect with not only with our own diaspora, but also with the youth and family of our host countries. And you might have seen how was the participation. We have everyone participating in the chess, and this is the 3rd edition.
Players from across the local community have gathered to compete in formats including Blitz and Swiss rounds, testing both speed and strategy on the board.
So chess, as you know, is a game which was invented in India. And as we speak, chess is one of the games which is approved as a life skill. So like you have swimming as a life skill for your life, the same way a chess as a game can actually make you think about how to lead your life. So from that point of view, youth development or sport, possibly even from the right small age, we can actually take chess as one of the important skills that one can actually take it as a life skill.
As the event continues to grow, it stands as a reminder of how sport can build bridges between countries, one move at a time. Where strategy meets community, checkmate from Johannesburg. I'm Nazneen for DD India.
Harry Kane scored his 32nd goal of the campaign as Bayern Munich cruised to a 4-2 win over Stuttgart to claim a record 35th Bundesliga title. Rafael Guerreiro, Nicholas Jackson and Alphonso Davies joined Kane on the score sheet, while Chris Führich and Chima Andres scored for the visitors. Borussia Dortmund's 2-1 defeat at Hoffenheim, their second in 2 matches, left the door open for Bayern, who only need a point now at home to secure the title with 4 games to spare. The title victory once again illustrated Bayern's modern and historical dominance of German football. The Bavarian Giants have now won 13 of the past 14 Bundesliga titles. Bayern have 35 league titles, with no other team reaching these figures, double figures in fact. The French Arthur Fils, the Frenchman, he beat Russian Andrei Rublev 6-2, 7-6 to lift the Barcelona clay court title, with the French Open just a few months away. The 21-year-old Fils, in fact, returned from an injury 8-month injury that was. He had been away from the game. He returned in February and has been in strong form, finishing as runner-up to Carlos Alcaraz as well in Doha before breezing to a 4th trophy of his career. The result will make him France's top-ranked male player after showing poise and maturity to negotiate his way to the ATP 500 title. Yannick Noah was the last Frenchman, in fact, to win at Roland Garros in 1983. And Fils, in fact, is going to be in the spotlight with the 2026 tournament starting on May 18. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. Thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.